Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. This one is player rankings where myself and George from Ingenuity Fantasy, which if you don't know about Ingenuity Fantasy, check them out. The link is in the description, ingenuityfantasy.com. All sorts of good stuff on there. You've got match stats from Opta, you've got articles from various different people on differentials, captaincy, etc. You've got our player rankings, which we'll be talking about today, and you've got the transfer wizard, which is a cool feature. You basically just type in or put in what position you need, how much you've got to spend, what funds you've got, and it will give you a list in order that you should be considering. So yeah, but today we'll be talking about the player rankings, which are top 10 for each category. The categories are premium defenders, premium mids, premium forwards, budget forwards. Myself and George will both do a top 10 and we'll talk through them. So yeah, let's get straight into it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the FPL player ranking series with myself and Brad. Hopefully the audio is a bit better this week on my end, as I now have my microphone, so apologies about last week. Just before we go straight into cheap defenders, I just want to caveat this entire list. You know, if you're on free hit 34, this list will mean something quite different to you, because we're going off the next set of 5 fixtures. So, you know, if you're free hitting in 34, then assets like, you know, Arsenal and City, for example, you will naturally have much higher than me and Brad do, because these lists are factoring in that missing fixture. But anyway, I mean, let's get started straight away with cheap defenders. And I think, you know, for once, I mean, for the first time in a while, I think there is just a complete star of the show. And that is Sessegnon. I mean, he's playing as a winger. It costs, what is it now, 4.1 million, 4.2 million, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, 4.1 million. And Fulham's fixtures, you know, they got Southampton, Villa, then Everton at home, and Brentford. What's not to love about Sessegnon?
Yeah, outrageous value. Outrageous value for this week alone, to be honest. I mean, if you're on free hit, I think he should seriously be considered. The fixtures, I'm not sure they're actually that great long term. I mean, Villa away is a pretty bad fixture. Brentford away, Brentford score a lot of goals, and then City, the Everton at home in between is quite good, and Southampton this week's good. But yeah, the fact that he's playing as a winger, he's 4.1 million. He's got Southampton this week. That's all there is to know, really. Yeah,
and I think that's the difference. I mean, even though, you know, those fixtures from a defensive standpoint don't sound great, but because he is playing as a winger, it's almost like the clean sheets are the bonus side, and you know you're really hoping for those attacking returns. So that's why, I mean, Brentford is not a bad fixture for an attacker, and I mean true. Even City these days isn't a bad fixture for an attacker. So you know, he does have that sort of nice double-edged sword. So, I mean, if you're free hitting, Sessegnon should definitely be considered. I mean, even if you're making general transfers, I mean, he's such a great enabler. If you've got multiple transfers, just do not overthink it and get the man in. And then another key point. Now, some of this may be personal emotional scarring for me, and that is Livramento. So, you know, Livramento and Burn have dropped right down my lists. I think the Villa result did just spook me a bit. I mean, we looked really, really leaky. I mean, genuinely, Villa could have had 6 or 7. Granted, you know, it wasn't the best. We were away from home, but you know, you'd just expect a better defensive performance against a team, you know, who's been playing European football as well. So, I mean, that's why Newcastle are down for me.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I'm not going to go off that one performance really. I mean, yeah, it wasn't great, but before that, Newcastle were almost the best team in the league form-wise, to be honest. So. And it's Ipswich at home this week. Obviously, if you're on free hit, I mean, we're going to say this about every player, but if you're on free hit, then you go triple Newcastle. It's pretty simple. And I do think Livramento is probably one of them guys. One of the defenders is. I think you either go with Livramento, Trippier or Shaw. You go with one of them, just because I think that fixture's too good. It just depends how much kind of funds you've got to play with. Trippier is on set pieces, so if you've got the funds, then maybe you do go with him. But Livramento is pretty good as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I've now come round to Livramento above Burn. He just is making those, he's just is making those slightly more attacking runs, and he is actually in and around the box quite frequently. So yeah, I mean, if there is a cheap Newcastle defender to go to, then I think you're definitely looking at a Livramento. Which now brings us on to premium defenders. And you will notice a return to the top of our list of Mr. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I mean, naturally, came on, was the difference this week. But a lot of people have been saying, maybe he doesn't see out the rest of his time at Liverpool, contract disputes. I just think they let him do a lap of honour till the end of the season and start every game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he probably does get the minutes, to be honest. The fixtures aren't the best, but that might not matter, really. I mean, Tottenham at home is okay this week. Chelsea away actually isn't bad at the moment. Chelsea seem to be horrific right now for some reason. Then Arsenal, Brighton and Palace. So the fixtures are kind of okay. It just depends how Liverpool kind of go about things. When there's nothing to play for, once they've already won the league, it'll be interesting to see kind of how they play or how they change. It's different year on year with teams that win the league early, so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, you'd think that Trent would want to go out on a high if it looks likely that he is leaving, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you'll see towards the end of the season, as Liverpool have it properly wrapped up, I think you will see rotation potentially between Konate and Kwanzaa and Tsimikas and Robertson. But I think they will let Trent have his moments and have his time in the limelight. So I think he personally could be quite a safe bet in that sense. But there is naturally that risk. And then so there's also a return to the list. I mean, I've been a bit sceptical, but he has been getting points for Kirkes. Now Brad seems to be back on the Bournemouth train. I'm personally not quite there. So what's done it for you?
Yeah, I think it's just more. It's now that all the kind of doubles are over. Like the reason that I didn't have Bournemouth very high in any of the lists was because they didn't have a double, which is warranted. But now everyone, apart from the teams that are blanking in 34, everyone's on an even kind of playing field of the amount of fixtures. So yeah, I just think Bournemouth are very good. I mean, they haven't been in great form recently, but as a team, I just think they're very, very good. And Kirkes is ridiculously attacking, so I don't mind him as an option. There is better options with better fixtures, but yeah, I don't mind Kirkes.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just I mean, one win in their last 8 is just far from ideal. And I think I mean, we do know they are good for a goal here and there. We do know what they are like when they get on fire. But I don't even think they scored above 2 goals within that same stretch. I think something's happened there, and they just seem to be pacified a little bit. I mean, defensively it hasn't been a disaster. So I think Kirkes is probably the way to go. I feel way less optimistic about Clive at Semenyo, but that's a conversation for the next segment. And then, so what are your thoughts on sort of Trippier or Shaw? I mean, we spoke briefly about Trippier's threat, but I mean, Shaw. I mean, again, it's almost like we know Shaw is attacking positioning. He always seems to be in and around the right areas. Or when there's crosses going in, when there's rebounds coming out, he actually, as centre backs go, has a really good nous for attacking positioning. And it's we're saying it like it's a surprise. It's kind of been his profile for a couple of years, but he kind of goes under the radar a bit when it comes to being selected in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think it is a surprise in that, like you say, he's always been known, or at least I think he has, as quite a good attacking centre-back. But the problem is he's always been pretty expensive in FPL because for that reason, basically. He's always been like the 5 million, 5.5 million, which makes him a bit of a dead option. But now, when you get towards the end of the season, you don't really need that much value anymore. I still do think Trippier is better just because he is on every single set piece. Maybe they are going to Shaw, but not all of them will. So I do think Trippier is better, and given that he's only 0.1 million more, I think you do just go with Trippier if you are going with one of them.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to agree in that sense. And I mean, Newcastle are always quite a good threat from set pieces. I mean, Shah himself is quite good. But, between Shah and Joe Linton, there's some pretty good bodies to aim at. So, yeah, Trippier, I think, is definitely a good option. Then another interesting one who some people might be on for free hit in 34 is Cucurella. Now, Chelsea, I mean, I can't figure out if they're bad or not. I mean, I think they are bad, but they somehow seem to be squeaking results. And Cucurella just always has that potential to return. So, I mean, given the fixture, is he someone you would potentially bring in?
On free hit, yeah. I don't think you buy him.
Yeah.
I mean, these lists were for premium defenders. Once you get below the 7th spot, it's not great. So you're putting in players just because they've got more fixtures than other people at that point, really. Yeah. But this fixture, Everton at home in 34, is pretty good. So if you don't think Chelsea will continue to be terrible, which they shouldn't really, there's no good reason why they are playing terrible. So if you don't think they'll continue to be terrible, then I think, yeah, he's a fine pick. He may be on my free hit. I'm quite tempted by him because on free hit this week, the funds aren't too much of an issue. I mean, if you put a draft together, you do end up with quite a bit in the bank. So I may go with him. I wouldn't bring him in on a transfer just because after 34, it's Liverpool, Newcastle, United and Forest. Pretty rough, but yeah, as on free hit, I don't mind it.
Yep, I completely agree, to be fair. So yeah, that rounds out the premium defender segment and indeed the defender segment. Let us know what you think of our lists. Let us know if there's anyone we missed, and we will see you again for the midfielders. Right, and welcome back to the midfielder segment, and we will get started with cheap mids. We'll get started straight away with a bit of debate. As you can see, I have Barnes at 1, and Brad has not got him on the list at all. I mean, you'll probably have figured out this is down to, mainly trust in minutes. But, Brad reckons even with all those minutes, he still wouldn't outscore a couple of the people on his list. Now, I'll just give my reasoning before Brad gets back. And I think, for me, the last 4 or 5 game stretch where Barnes has been playing, bar the Villa game, Newcastle have played some of our best football all season. Now, Barnes has been in and around every single positive thing that happened. He's been outscoring Isak. He's looked our most prolific player in the final third, and even against Villa to equalise, just before half time, he was able to put in an absolute peach of a cross and find Shah. So at the moment, he does just seem to be making things happen. And when Gordon did come on, when we started chasing the game, it was Murphy who got hooked, and not Barnes. So I just think the form he's in, the way Newcastle were playing before the Villa loss, but even his performance in the Villa loss, I think the Barnes train is just full steam ahead at the moment.
Yeah, kind of fair, but I also just think, in order to think that Barnes is a really good option, you have to not believe in Murphy's minutes, I think. Which I just don't see how I don't see how that's possible, given that Murphy has also played very, very well. If to be fair, if Murphy had been playing rubbish all the time, Barnes has been playing well, I'd probably agree with you. But I just don't think with Gordon back, that's 3 players. I mean, Gordon, maybe Gordon doesn't start, to be honest, but you'd think that Gordon will start at some point. So you've got 3 players playing for 2 positions. I'm just not sure you can be that confident on any of them, let alone Barnes alone. That's my only reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, and it's completely fair. But I think when you are deciding between 3 players, the one who you generally shouldn't take out is the one who's playing best. So I think Murphy's minutes are way more vulnerable than Barnes is. I'll put it that way. But for now, I mean, it's hard to see, because Gordon does play off the left. Murphy is basically our only right winger. The form Barnes is in, it's very hard for me to see at least how Gordon gets a start at the moment. I think he has to wait for Barnes to slow down until he gets back in the starting lineup. I mean, because we're chasing Champions League football, I mean, you have to go with who's playing well. We can't just start chopping and changing the team because someone else was playing well earlier in the season. We have to be proactive. And, that's why I think for now. Also, Barnes has the capability to do multiple returns within a game. He's not like your sort of one and keep it ticking over. Newcastle have been absolutely routing teams recently, before the Villa game. So I think it's that capacity for multiple returns. Which is why I think Barnes is there for me.
I agree, and I also think that's why I do think he's a good option on free hit this week. I do think that given if you're looking at one game in isolation, which you obviously is what you're doing on free hit, I do think he's a good option for that. I actually think there's a world where you could go Isak, Barnes and Murphy. You could triple up on attack. To be honest, the way that Newcastle have been playing, you've been just scoring so many goals. I think you can triple up on the attack against Ipswich at home, to be honest. But long term, I'm not 100% sure on any of them. It's not necessarily just Barnes that I'm not sure on.
Yeah. And I completely get the long-term argument, which is why he is attached with a bit of... He is high-risk, high-reward Barnes. I mean, he is the definition of high-risk, high-reward at the moment. So, if you are behind in your mini-leagues and you want to take that swing, you can even captain him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I think it's, he is definitely a high-risk play. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in that sense, I guess we've kind of covered Murphy, in terms of, he might get rotated out, and someone I do want to talk about is Iwobi. Now, Brad less so than me. I'm quite a fan of Fulham's fixtures. And Iwobi seems to be, Muniz and Jimenez, we don't know what's happening there, really. Muniz is slightly injured, so Jimenez probably starts this game, but then Muniz might come back after that. Either way, I think the only guaranteed way into those fixtures is Sessegnon and Iwobi. And given Iwobi's price, I think, he's definitely not a bad option there. Yeah,
I do think on the other players, I mean, you do get Robinson as well, I guess. But in terms of the mids, I don't mind Iwobi, especially if you're on free hit. Obviously, it's Southampton away. Any team that's playing Southampton, I don't think you can ever not consider their options. I do like Iwobi. I just don't. This may be a bit of bias because I watched West Ham play Southampton at the weekend, and Southampton weren't bad. They have been bad all season, and it was potentially just us being West Ham, being bad, because we are terrible. But Southampton didn't look bad at all, and that's just made me think I'm not 100% sure on these Fulham guys that aren't Sessegnon, because Sessegnon's got clean sheets and attacking potential. Whereas anyone else, I'm not 100% sure on. But, I mean, can't really knock anyone for picking somebody against Southampton regardless. So, I don't mind it.
I think also the main reason that you would potentially go there is his price. He is incredibly cheap in that sense. So, he just can enable you. You basically get the Southampton fixture with their most guaranteed piece of the pie at that price. So that's essentially what Iwobi is. But he's not like a super attacking outlet. He probably won't get you like multiple returns, but there's a pretty decent floor there, I would say. And then that leads us nicely onto a pair of former favourites who have returned to the top of your list. I just don't trust Bournemouth in the slightest anymore. I think they got one win in 8. And failed to score more than 2 goals in all of them. So what's the Kluivert and Semenyo back top of your list?
I just really like both of them. I mean, any Bournemouth game, they're so involved, especially Semenyo. He cannot go a game without being involved in an attack. And I just think, again, this may be, like I've mentioned, the fixtures aren't the best. They've got Leicester at home in game week 38, which is obviously very good. This week, if you're on free hit, I really like this week's fixture. It's Man United at home. Man United are terrible. Yep. We know this.
Great fixture.
They have been for quite a long time now. So I think we can look at that game and think that Bournemouth can genuinely score quite a few goals against this team. So if you're on free hit, I wouldn't ignore Bournemouth players at all. I'm considering having Kluivert in my free. I'm considering having both in my team, my free hit team, to be honest.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just, maybe if their form wasn't that bad, but they had good fixtures, or, if their form was good, but they had bad fixtures, then I'd consider them. But for me, it's both. I think their form has been bad, and then they've got Arsenal, Villa, City in, the middle chunk of the next 5. It just makes them very hard to trust in that sense. Granted, they are very cheap though, and we do know that they have capacity, but I think it's just very, very risky.
Yeah, it is also.
But you're right.
Yeah, it is also a kind of lack of other options situation as well. Like, we did have players with doubles beforehand. We had Eze, we had the Newcastle guys, we had Sarr. Now you're looking at kind of Gibbs White, and after that, Elanga, I guess, but after that, there's no kind of standout options. So I think if there was a more packed field, maybe there wouldn't be top 2, but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that now leads us on to a team that, we almost swore not to touch, but, Brad off camera has already been giving me a lot of grief for it. And that's Brennan Johnson. So I did my list just before the Forest Spurs game, where, he'd started the last 2 and got about 3 returns. For me, I personally still wouldn't take him out the list, because I think they do start him again next game. Just because they did not look great against Forest at all. But I think, Spurs' fixtures, all things considered, aren't that bad. So after this Liverpool one's out of the way, they got West Ham, then Palace at home, and then Villa, and then Brighton at home. It could be worse, and I still don't know why they rotate players who seem to do well. It mystifies me about Tottenham, and it's clearly not working. Hopefully Brennan Johnson. I think he's actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, he's near the top of sort of returns this season. He's done quite well.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, just because he does seem to randomly pick up genuinely 14, 18 pointers.
Yeah.
But
he's got 11 goals and 6 assists this year, which isn't, in a bubble, isn't that bad.
No, it's not. A lot of them were at the start of the season when Spurs were actually one of the better they were the best attacking team in the league at the start of the season. But the only time he's really got returns recently is against Southampton at home and against Ipswich. Besides that, he's got 1 return. Granted, West Ham in game week 35 is potentially another Southampton-Ipswich situation, but I don't think any of the other fixtures particularly are. Palace potentially, because they've been really bad recently, but I'm not seeing these massive hauls come in regularly outside of West Ham. I'm also not seeing starts coming regularly. So.
Yeah, it's completely fair. Again, it's high risk. It's almost high risk, low rewards, really, Brennan Johnson. But yeah, I just didn't hate Tottenham's fixtures, and the bottom of this list gets pretty dry anyway. So I think that's how he's found his way in there.
Yeah.
And then another key thing that is probably worth talking about is the sort of Trossard, Merino, what to do with the Arsenal assets.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a few people. If you need a midfielder, you think about Trossard for Merino, or what would you?
I don't think.
What way are you leaning?
I don't. If you don't own any of them, I think you can't buy them right now, just because there's too much uncertainty with the Champions League. They're going to play their best game. They're going to play their best team in the Champions League games. I think Merino probably is the centre forward in that best 11. So you will never know. I don't think Trossard is in that best 11, because I think the front three is probably Martinelli, Merino, Saka. But then you can't confidently go with Trossard either, because you don't know if they will 100% rotate in all of the games around Champions League. There's just too much up in the air with it that I think you kind of have to avoid all of them if you don't own any of them. If you do own one of them, like myself, I've got Merino, maybe you do just hold them and hope that you get a game from them, because you're never going to know for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's just too much risk attached to it. So that leads us on to the premium mids. Now, one I mean, one I do just want to get started with. There's been all of this talk about, Saka or De Bruyne or, why was no one talking about Mbeumo?
Yeah, just really good all season. There's not anything to not like about him. Their fixtures are pretty good coming up as well. I mean, Forest away isn't great this week, but if you're on free hit, you want to be looking to buy him in game week 35 if you don't already own him. It's Man United at home, one of the best fixtures you can get. Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Wolves away. I don't think there's a team with better fixtures from 35 than that. And
completely agree.
He's just ridiculously good.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially considering a lot of people aren't sure what to do with Saka, or, some people still delaying moving off Palmer. Some people have even, done some weird De Bruyne stuff. I think if you don't have Mbeumo and you are thinking about moving off of those three, he should absolutely be the direction that you go in. Those fixtures are just, unbelievably tasty, especially considering, some of the fixtures. There's no team that has really good last 4 games of the season. So I think Brentford's, probably the best in that sense, kind of by default.
I think so.
So yeah, just don't overthink the Mbeumo transfer. I mean, the guy is absolute money. A lot of people are looking for a new, sort of slightly more expensive midfielder at the moment. So yeah, definitely the way to go. Which leads on to Saka, actually. Now, there's a lot of people. I mean, some people did have him. I think a lot of people actually probably had him captain last week. Unbelievably unlucky that he didn't return. But what do you think happens as far as Saka's minutes go, alongside the sort of Champions League? Because they're not playing for a huge amount in the league. So what do you do with Saka?
They're playing for a little bit more than I originally thought they were. I kind of looked at it the other day, and it's not like they're Forest are 6 points behind them. So I guess with 5 games to go, that is quite a lot. But similar to Marino and Trossard, you just don't know whether you're going to get minutes or not. With someone like Marino, who's 6 million, maybe it's a risk that you can take. With Saka, it was 10.5 million. I think if you don't have him, you are obviously not going to be buying him now. If you do have him, I think just move to Mbeumo if you haven't got him in 35, honestly.
Yeah, and I think if you already have Saka and Mbeumo, then Saka is probably a hold, maybe, because I mean I'm trying to think about where else you go. You
could go cheaper, I guess. That would be the only thing I'd suggest. I just don't think you can keep him. You could maybe you do. I don't know. The fixtures aren't even unbelievable either, though. They've got Liverpool away, and amongst it all, the last game of the season is Southampton. But besides that, there's Newcastle in there. I don't know. I think I'd sell.
Yeah. It's either way, it's sketchy ground. Probably not worth the risk. Now, another man I do want to talk about, who, I mean, probably for personal reasons, Brad doesn't want to show him any love, is Jared Bowen. Now, the only reason Owen is there for me, now granted West Ham have not been great at all this season, but I mean their fixtures to end the season are pretty good. They've got Brighton, who just seem to be shipping quite a lot of goals at the moment. Then they've got Spurs and United, and then Forest, and then Ipswich. So those Spurs, United and Ipswich fixtures, I think Bowen is, there's an excellent play for those.
Yeah, the fixtures are good. He's one of the few outside of the top 4 that will get good minutes. You don't know where minutes are going to come from Saka, from KDB, potentially from Diaz, from Gordon. So he does. You're going to get minutes from him. You're probably going to get penalties from him. So there is a lot to like about him. But people shouldn't underestimate how bad West Ham are right now. I mean that. I really mean that. We are next level bad. If you watch the second half against Southampton, I'd go as far as saying we might be the worst team in the league right now. I think. Genuinely.
I mean, I had Areola on bench boost as well, so I mean, I don't need a second invitation to dislike West Ham more. So I mean, yeah, that is. There is a certain level of bad. I think even Wolves can be trusted more in bad fixtures than West Ham can.
A lot more. We're down there with a lot more. We're down there with Leicester and Southampton as bad. at the moment. And what makes it worse is we have nothing to play for anyway, so I can't see us getting better.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, is there not a bit if you don't want to spend the season on a high, or
I don't know if we know how.
Right? Okay, there you had it. There you have it, guys. That's your very stern warning to stay away from Bowen. And then I think the final midfielder we want to talk about now is Diaz. So Diaz, I mean, traditionally we've just sort of avoided him because he's been a bit of a minutes risk. But I think you seem to be slightly more optimistic about this final run to end the season.
Yeah, I am slightly more optimistic than I have been before. Again, it is also because of lack of other options. That is a part to play here. But I can't see... I saw something today about Darwin Núñez where if he gets like one more start then for Liverpool, then Liverpool have to pay Benfica some money. So...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he probably doesn't get any more starts. I'm not sure he would have anyway. So you are looking at Diaz, Jota and Gakpo for the three. Yeah. And Slot just seems to like love Diaz, which I kind of agree with. I think that Liverpool fans are quite harsh on Diaz a lot. I mean, I think he's just very good. Personally.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the difference is every time we watch Liverpool, we're either watching highlights of him or, you know, we're watching, I mean, pretty much that. Yeah, we're watching highlights of him now. What I've heard from Liverpool fans, including the other Ingenuity admin, is that he does a lot of just running around. He does a lot of just bleep tests where he doesn't have much of an end product. So, you know, I think, you know, when he is on the pitch, I mean, he does seem to get returns though. Yeah. So I think it's only the minutes risk. So I think if you have good bench cover, then he's absolutely not a bad punt at all.
Well, I also just think Slot likes him. Slot just plays him. He's played him all season. Yeah. He hasn't really been... I mean, he has been benched, but not like mass benched, to be honest.
Yeah. Are you slightly worried about Liverpool running out of steam, though?
Not particularly. I'm a tiny bit worried that their fixtures aren't the best, but I do think Liverpool will potentially just continue to do well. Who knows how well? As I mentioned earlier, we have no idea. Kind of, some teams deal with nothing to play for differently, but I don't know. Liverpool have just been good enough all season. I think you can just get returns from them.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, I mean, quite a lot in that midfielder segment for this week. So yeah, let us know what you think of our lists. Let us know if there's anyone we missed, and we will see you again for the forwards. Right, and welcome back to the forward segment, and we will get started straight away with the cheap forwards. Now, a good place to get started. I mean, you know, we were just talking about how great Brentford's fixtures were, you know, in terms of getting in Mbeumo. I think another, you know, huge beneficiary of that is Wissa. Now, I mean, Brad naturally has him at 1. I just, you know, the only reason that I've got Wood and Cunha above him is, you know, just, you know, I also really like Forest fixtures till the end of the season, and Cunha just, you know, is slightly more talismanic in that sense, but you know, it's a very close call between the two, and also, you know, I mean, it's very tight, but yeah, I mean, Wissa, just a fantastic option, really.
Yeah, the only thing with him is he's not on penalties. The other guys are. Yeah. But I just think that Brentford will score quite a lot more goals than all of these other teams. It's just whether Wissa will be involved, which you'd think he should. So, I mean, the other guys...
Which he has been.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Wood, Cunha will probably take like a lion's share of the goals for their teams. Yeah. And yeah, like you mentioned, Wolves, Forest, Brentford have all got very good fixtures. They're all very good options, realistically. As is Evan Nilsson, as is Welbeck in mind. The top 5, I think, are all very good options right now.
Yeah, and you know, we previously had it where, you know, the cheap forwards has been a bit dreary. You know, it's been quite uninspiring, especially when Wood and Cunha went, you know, past that 7 million threshold. But yeah, I mean, at the moment there is quite a lot to like here, really. So Cunha, I mean, Cunha's an interesting one because, you know, I mean, he had his minutes managed a bit, but I don't think we see that till the end of the season. I mean, they haven't got huge amount to play for, and you know, there is all this Man United interest heating up. Do you think that affects his minutes at all?
Nah, I think he's fine for minutes, to be honest. would imagine that he'll just play. I think their fixtures are really good as well. Like, he'll be on my free hit for sure. Leicester at home this week is just very, very good. I'll probably have triple Wolves if I'm honest.
Yeah. I mean, Leicester. Yeah. I mean, speaking of Leicester, I mean they haven't scored in 9 games now, or something like that. Weirdly, they do actually have the run of fixtures till the end of the season. So, they do have Wolves and then Southampton at home. Then they also have Ipswich at home. So, especially in the case of Southampton and Ipswich, Leicester versus Southampton and Ipswich, it's kind of like a stoppable force meeting a movable object. Like something. How can you not will Southampton actually keep a clean sheet, or will Leicester break their duck? Does that make Vardy an absolute wild card of a shout?
Yeah, I mean,
surely they can't go 10 games without scoring.
I think it's they've scored in 2 of their last 13, which is outrageous. But yeah, I mean, again, that's why this week I think Cunha, Ait-Nouri, and potentially even another defender from Wolves, because Leicester aren't scoring goals. So I do like the triple up on Wolves this week. Vardy, I do. The thing is, there's quite a lot to like about Vardy. We've just explained how they don't score goals, but it's just getting quite good minutes, although he did come off early a few times, but he's on penalties. They've got good fixtures. So if you really want to take a gamble, then I don't hate it, apart from the fact they're just literally scoring no goals. But they now do have the fixtures to score lots of goals. Yeah.
I mean, Wolves, Southampton and Ipswich in your next 4 games is, as money as fixtures get. It's just whether you take that gamble on a team that hasn't scored in 9 games. It's a very weird situation there because, normally any other striker in the league looking at those 4 fixtures, you'd be like, great, but he just plays for the one team that you don't trust to convert on them. Or potentially Southampton as well. I mean, speaking of teams who you do expect to convert, now with João Pedro's suspension, that has opened the door up for Welbeck, who did get on the score sheet as well. How high up do you now rate Welbeck? I mean, obviously there's quite a lot of star power near the top of this list, but do you think Welbeck is viable?
Yeah, 100%. He, again, is someone that I'm really thinking about having on my free hit this week. Not least because they play against West Ham at home. But yeah, I just think that this just makes him a fantastic option. He's now got the penalties from João Pedro. He's also got the minutes from João Pedro. And Brighton can score goals. I mean, they scored 2 against Brentford, 2 against Leicester. They're not scoring loads of goals, but they're not doing bad either. So I think he's a really good option now, especially if you're on free hit. I think he's a very good option. There's quite a lot of good forwards on free hit this week, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, even till the end of the season, Brighton aren't bad. They've got West Ham, Wolves, and Spurs within their next 5, which are all very juicy fixtures. So, I mean, I definitely now João Pedro's out. I definitely like Welbeck as an option, and his price is unbelievable. So, definitely not a bad option. Now, one thing that is confusing, not that he's ever a viable option in the slightest. I mean, even though Ipswich do have good fixtures, but Delap being benched for 2 games. I mean, if anyone knows what's going on, can you let us know? Because I mean, we haven't figured it out.
Yeah, maybe I've completely missed something here, but in game week 30 and game week 31, he scored a goal in both of them. Then Ipswich are trying to stay up. Maybe they're just resigned to the fact they're not staying up, but they're trying to stay up. So then he gets benched against Chelsea and benched against Arsenal. I don't get it. Maybe there is something that we're just completely missing, but to me it makes no sense.
Yeah, very confusing one. Now, anyway, on to much more viable strikers in the premium section. Now, I mean, not huge amount of change really from last week, but I mean there are a couple flashpoints which I know a lot of people are struggling with. Now, one of them is Mateta. Now, I mean, Mateta is a tricky one. I mean, his minutes, he seems to be suffering quite a lot of minutes. We've always known Mateta has been fairly consistent from performance wise now, and I know a lot of people had brought him in, particularly for the doubles. You have to move off him, don't you?
I think you do. Yeah, I do have him, and I will likely be moving off of him. I mean, I think. Yeah, I just think you do, to be honest. Their fixtures aren't good enough. They're not playing well enough. He's not getting enough minutes. So, and there's just too many other good options that are cheaper than him, as we mentioned, like Wissa, Wood, Cunha, Welbeck, Evan Nilsson. Like, there's too many good options to keep him, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it, Not that anyone else in the premium section is particularly inspiring, but I mean, if you're talking about Wood, Cunha and Wissa, they literally slot in about number 2, 3 and 4 in this premium section.
Yeah.
So, especially considering, the extra budget that someone like Mateta will take up, I mean, there's not much reason to hang on to him considering how good those other options are.
Yeah.
And I guess, someone else in kind of similar position is maybe Watkins, someone else who people may have brought in for the double, and so are going to free hit in 34. But then, I mean, 35. It's just. I mean, they have good fixtures, Villa. That's the thing. They've got Fulham, then Bournemouth, then they've got Spurs and United. So the fixtures are there, but I just don't think we can trust Watkins' minutes.
No, we can't. Him and Rashford will share minutes. I mean, we've seen it. Watkins started at the weekend, and then this evening, we're recording this during the City and Villa game, and Rashford started tonight. So you just can't get guaranteed minutes, and at 8.9 million, you need guaranteed minutes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the risk is just not worth it. I mean, it's a shame because Villa's attack is so potent at the minute, but because of how much chopping and changing is going on, it's from an FPL standpoint, it's an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, that rounds out the forward segment. Let us know what you think of our list. Let us know if there's anyone that we missed, and we will see you again next week.
And that's all for this one. If you liked the video, do hit like, do subscribe. Make sure you check out ingenuityfantasy.com, and I will see you in the next one.